On today's episode of the CLS Experience, we have a very special treat. He's an NFL Super Bowl champion, NFL Walter Payton Man of the Year award winner, man of faith, integrity, and honor, two-sport All-American, unbelievable athlete, elite businessman, speaker, entrepreneur, fitness enthusiast, and he's the king of reinventing himself after the gridiron. He transformed from a place of darkness to thriving and evolving into his best self, leaving his demons behind. He's overcome just about everything, including sexual abuse and addiction, and he's become a beacon of hope, faith, transformation, and a bright light in this world. He's just a juggernaut in all facets of life and a phenomenal husband and father. Please welcome the dynamic, athletic, mindful, grateful, and transformative, electrifying, and abundant Steve Weatherford. How you doing, Steve?
Dude, that was amazing, Craig. You know what I want to do, dude? I don't know if you're 5'6" or 6'6", but I want to package you up in my suitcase and bring you around with me and let you speak that over me when I'm bummed out, man. I'm honored, man. That was really cool. Thank you for writing those things. Thank you for saying those things and introducing me. It's awesome to be able to be here with you and just to let everybody know that's listened to this. Craig put great effort into making this conversation happen. There was a couple of times we had like a thing scheduled, and then my family happens and we've been moving and everything, and you've just been persistent, man. So just honor you. I don't know you that well, but I know that you run around with a lot of guys that I do, and I appreciate you, building the audience that you've built and just allowing me to kind of speak some truth to them, at least, what I know to be true in my life. And that introduction was awesome. So let's party, man.
Thank you so much, brother, for those words. I'm going to go ahead and receive all of them. I appreciate it. It's funny because you and I could have chatted for about an hour before we hit record. We wanted to save a lot of the juicy stuff for obviously the show. We do have a lot of mutual friends and so forth. But as I alwas like to tell the guests, because they get so excited when they hear the intro, it's your life, brother. You wrote it. I just said it.
Yeah, you know what? But that's the one thing about men that I don't think we do well for ourselves. And we don't do well for each other, and we don't honor well. And one thing it's hard to do for ourselves and honor ourselves is sometimes you can't see the ingredients from inside the bottle, and we're inside our bottle, man. And so kind of like I've been studying the Maslow's hierarchy of competency this week, because there's the top level, and the top level is like unconscious incompetence. Like you don't even know how good you are because it just flows natural to you. Those are the things, like those are the special ingredients inside of us, that maybe those are the natural gifts or talents or things that we've created in ourselves that we don't know to be almost supernatural. And we're not good as men at acknowledging the ingredients inside of other men, because we may be insecure when we see greatness in other men. And so it's almost kind of like in scripture, it says iron sharpens iron. So one man sharpens another, but in order for one man to sharpen another, you must acknowledge that there's gifts inside of that man. And I want to help bring them out. I want to help sharpen them for the betterment of the weapon that you are, not because it will benefit me. And I think there's something to be said about your ability, because I haven't listened to your other episodes, but you said that's what other guys say when I introduce them, and it's your life. I just said it, but it's a gift to be able to notice the greatness and the really cool ingredients of another man, and then have enough boldness and security about yourself to tell that other man in front of an audience that you've worked really hard to gather. So thank you for the way that you honor me, and thank you for the way that you obviously honor your other guests, man. That's really cool. And it's an awesome way to be able to start an episode, because it does say in scripture, not to preach right off the jump here, but I got one message for you guys. But when we honor, everything works the way that God designed it to work. And you just did the most perfect thing that you can do at the beginning of a show, and that's honor the guests that you have. And I did my best to honor the audience and giving me their attention for this episode, but also honoring you for gathering this audience and allowing me to do that. But the reason that because I want this episode to go the way that God wants it to go. And so when you honored and I honored, I believe that sets the stage for things to happen for the other people that are listening to this, because you don't want to make it about you. I don't want to make it about you, or I don't want to make it about me. And I believe that God has a word for each and every person that's listening to this, if they're willing to receive. So I think this is going to be a special episode, man. So thanks.
Bang. And then we would drop the mic, but we haven't even begun. You're so dynamic, Steve, straight up. And I appreciate all the beautiful words. And we're on the same page. We couldn't be more aligned. Like, that's what it's all about, is kind of checking our egos at the door and coming together to just provide an unbelievable, valuable conversation. And I'm with you. We're going to create some magic today. Let's get nuts.
Well, what do you want to talk about, man? Like what's on your heart? There's a lot of things that I feel like have been, I said, like Maslow's hierarchy of competence. And I would love to, go through the Wikipedia of my life. And you kind of said a lot of the great things about, the things that I've done. But man, I guess if I wanted to do one thing while we're here together, is really just to challenge how people think. Yes. Based upon this conversation, because the different thing that the amazing guests that probably have come on here who have accomplished, I'm going to tell y'all something right now. It has 100% to do with the way that they think. It has nothing to do with their circumstances. It has everything to do with what they did with those circumstances. And how do you influence your circumstances? By the way that you think. And so, man, I'm just praying and believing that our conversations are really just going to challenge you wherever you're listening to this podcast. If you're in a car while you're listening to this, that's how I listen to the podcast, or you're watching this on YouTube, or you might be working out right now. Like, do this. Like, just eliminate a couple of the distractions that you allowed to exist while you listen to most podcasts. And I don't say that so you can hear my voice. I'm believing that you will hear your Father's voice, and not your daddy, not your father of origin, the one that brought you into this world, but the one that created you, the one that decided, hey, you know what? I choose you. I choose to put a destiny on you. I choose to put a purpose on you. I choose to put unique passions inside of you. And I also choose to put unique giftings inside of you. So I'm just believing that you're going to do more than just like listen to a podcast, but you're going to hear you're going to hear a voice today. And so I believe a lot of my story, I guess, if I can kind of point it in a direction of a direction I think will serve this audience, because I believe that everybody listens to the CLS experience like once more in life. And I lived a life based upon a lot of the things that Craig shared with you. I call it like my Wikipedia page, the things that I've achieved, my trophy case that like people care about. And to me, for a very long time, that was all that I cared about. And the reason that I cared about that, Craig had mentioned that I'm like, I call it, I don't call it, but people say a survivor of sexual abuse. Man, well, I definitely survived through it, but man, there were some things that like happened to my little boy brain when I was abused by the person that like groomed me and gained my trust for a period of time, and then betrayed me and took advantage of me. And then you ask her, you have little boy questions like, man, like, well, if God is real, like, how could he let something like that happen to me? Or, like, well, since this happened, does this make me gay? And like, that's a lot for like a little 12-year-old boy to think about and to ponder. And you don't really feel like you have clearance, or you don't want to like ask those questions to people that may be able to help you sift through them, which kind of goes back to what we talked about at the beginning of us coming together. Men don't do a great job of honoring each other, honoring ourselves, and we also don't do a good job of connecting, because you have to connect before you can honor. And I didn't connect with anybody on what I was going through. And so I really kind of shifted that pain into the purpose of what I thought my life was. And that was like achieving, and that was like building my body and winning and breaking records. And so, 4 sports in high school, and 4 sports all state, and all American in football, then go on to the University of Illinois and become an All-American and decathlete and in football there, and then go on to the NFL. Through all these different achievements, it just seems like, man, Steve was just rolling. He was just, bro, I was so broken. And I was like, so like insecure about who I was. The only value that I thought that I had was like going and winning. Like if I lost games, I don't want to say I was suicidal, but I felt like I was worth about as much as somebody that should just go kill themselves. Because if people knew what happened to me, if people knew how kind of like perverted I felt like that made me. And then like shortly after I was abused, then I was introduced to porn, and like, well, I grew up in the church, and I know that's not something that's supposed to exist in my life. And so I have this other dark secret. And then that led to having an injury, then Percocets, and then Percocets is something that for about 4 hours, bro, that's like getting a hug from God, you know? And so then you struggle with that addiction. And so I went from trauma to questioning God to porn addiction to the only thing that made those things go away was when I was like on the track, on the football field, on the basketball court, or training in preparation to be on that. And I was like beating myself into being a champion, but I wasn't so consumed with winning. I was consumed with not being a loser, because if I'm a loser, then I have no value at all, because if people knew about me or these problems or these struggles or these addictions, they wouldn't want to have anything to do with me. So I say those things to really let people know that, man, there's probably been a lot of people that you've watched on Sundays in the NFL. There's been a lot of people you've watched in the Olympics. There've been a lot of people that, you watch that are singing on and dancing and doing these amazing things, but you don't realize that a lot of their greatness was born out of trauma, and they're operating out of a wound, meaning their pursuit to greatness is actually not a pursuit to greatness. It's actually evading the trauma that they're getting away from. And as these incredible gifts are starting to surface from these people, because they're so consumed with them, because they're living such an out of balance and in a life that's in disorder, that's when drugs come in. That's when addictions come in, because those are the only things that make the voices of guilt and shame turn off for that moment. At least that's what my experience was. So I know that was a lot, but I really just kind of wanted to let people know it was an amazing introduction, and I did achieve all those things. And it was amazing. I had great teammates and coaches that helped me to achieve those things. But a lot of people don't know the trauma that was born out of.
Yeah. And Steve, just need to check for 1 second. First of all, I love you, buddy. Straight up. Like, the only negative I got going on is we don't have 10 hours to chat. But I'm so glad that you just went on a rant about all that stuff, because one of the reasons why I included your Wikipedia stuff, I say in quotations, in the intro, is because for the audience listening, like we just hit 1 million strong. Like, if you're not familiar with Steve, if you're living under a rock, go check out his content, go to his website, go to his Instagram, and get his background story. What I believe is most valuable is just a great conversation of some things that people need to hear. And based upon everything that you just said, what's so interesting to me is, based upon the path and the journey that you were in, like holding all this stuff in and kind of playing to provide value on the football field and so forth. Eventually we get to a point, correct me if I'm wrong, but the darkest day of your life was the night of winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it was. I mean, that's supposed to be the culmination, And so, like, as people listen to this, there may be a couple people who may have created goals for themselves, like a Super Bowl type of goal. I've created a couple of them. It was never really about the Super Bowl for me. It was about just being the best at something. But I remember as a little kid saying, like, man, when I'm older, I'm going to win a Super Bowl. And I always imagined myself catching a touchdown, like punting in the Super Bowl, and it didn't work out exactly. But my point is like, I had a dream of being a professional athlete. I also, when I became a professional athlete, I had a dream of like, man, once I get $1 million, and I think we're all guilty, and this is just human nature. And this is our incompleteness, but we're all guilty of placing, like, I'll be happy when, and we become really good at putting the point of I'll be happy when past the point of like the cognitive horizon. Hey man, I'll be happy when I'm a Super Bowl champion, or I'll be happy when I make $1 million. But man, it was a really incredible opportunity for me to play a Super Bowl 47 miles, Craig, from where I went to high school, dude. This is in Indianapolis, Indiana. I'm from Terre Haute. And so here I am. I'm playing February 5th, 2012. I'm playing against Tom Brady, New England Patriots. Like, this is when he's in his prime. I guess he's probably still in his prime. He just announced he's coming back for his 23rd season. What a beast, by the way. That's a whole nother conversation.
Yes.
But we're playing this guy, right? And this guy's unbeatable. But we're playing him in dang near my hometown. And I had the best game of my entire
Career.
life, Craig. I mean, I'm a punter, so there are games that I play in, and like honestly, I don't make that much of an impact. I owed a couple extra points. I grab a big check and I go home. But man, in this particular game, I was just put in the situation that really influenced the game. My very first punt that was down to the 2-yard line, and the very next play we sacked Tom Brady in the end
Safety.
zone for the first 2
Dang.
points of you're in New York, you freaking know, bro. Hey, sometimes when I'm bummed out, dude, I'll just go to YouTube and type in NFC Championship Giants 49ers fans reaction, and it'll have like the videos of the mom recording like the dad and the daughter, and they're like, come on, Tynes, kick the field goal. And when it goes through, like, when I'm feeling bummed about let me watch people just have the moment of their life, because I lived in that, but we all just every once in a while we need a perspective shift. So anyway, let me take you back to the Super Bowl. I had the best game of my life. Every single time I punted the ball, Tom Brady started at the 2-yard line, the 4-yard line, the 6-yard line, and the 8-yard line. I set Super Bowl records, like all craziness, right? I mean, I had Al Roker come up to me after the game and be like, Steve Weatherford, so what's it like to blah, blah, blah? And I'm like, this mother flipping Al Roker, bro. I'm the punter. Like, aren't you looking for somebody important? But I was just that influential in that particular game.
Hell of a game.
And Al Michaels said to Chris Collinsworth at halftime, like, I've never said this before, but if we were voting for a Super Bowl MVP right now, I'd give it to the punter, Steve Weatherford. Bro, if I had heard that at halftime, I would have had to change my pants, because people don't say things like that. The game gets over. My mom's there, my dad's there, my grandma, my brothers, my sister, my wife, my kids, my son, like everybody's there. And they're all telling me, Steve, you're so amazing. Oh my gosh, I can't believe this. And honestly, I can't believe it either. And here I am holding this Lombardi trophy, and I'm passing around to my family. And everybody's telling me how great I am. Tom Coughlin is, saying things in the post-game interview, and he never talks about the punter. So literally, every desire of my heart, because my love language is words of affirmation and quality time, everybody's giving me what I desire. And so then I get back to my hotel room. This is at like 2:00 in the morning. And it's the first time that I've really been by myself. And I remember walking up to the window and looking down and realizing, like, dude, I'm a Super Bowl champion. And there's thousands of people down there having the time of their life and the moment of their life. And I don't feel any different. And this like wave of depression came over me, because I realized all the sacrifice that went into achieving that goal. And so as people listen to this, like, there's going to be some people that listen to this, Craig, because this is a podcast for go-getters. Because I know you're like a New York go-getter, man. You're a doer, you're not a thinker. And so I know there's people on here who have achieved things that they thought that were going to complete them, that thought that we're going to, like, man, finally I've made it. Well, I did that too, man. So I'm connecting with you right now. And then like this wave came over me. And I don't know if that's happened to anybody else when you thought things were going to shift, if it was like a big moment like that, or if just like over time you realize, man, I thought that my life was going to change when I made this money or lived in this house or got this wife.
I can relate
or broke this addiction, know? And I realized in that moment that there was nothing inside of the NFL that was ever going to fix like this God-sized hole inside of me, because I realized in this moment that like becoming a world champion and a pro athlete and these different things that I thought were going to be the thing that was going to make me feel valuable, like I realized that those were just missions that I was on, but I was searching for a purpose. And so like in that moment, I knew my days in the NFL were numbered, Craig. And so I played a couple more years and got like a 5-year contract, multi-million dollars. And I thought that was, and that just checked another box that no, this isn't going to do it either. And then I kind of went on this spiritual vision quest. I retired. I got, I took a job at ESPN. I had a TV show with Spike. And I thought like, man, maybe God wants me to like, use my voice to do something, because I checked all the boxes. Like I was the most philanthropic dude in the NFL, the fittest dude in the NFL. I was a Super Bowl champion. I knew there was nothing over there that was going to fix this. So I said, man, let me go do something over there. And that didn't check it. So then my wife said, hey, we've always wanted to live in San Diego. And I was successful with these different things, but it didn't shift anything in here. And so I'm going from thing to thing to like, what's the next thing that's going to change this? Because I've changed my arms, I've changed my bank account, I've got a great wife, I've great kids.
Steve,
like on paper, man, this thing
for the audience listening, it's like, wow, that's me. I can relate to that right now. Like Can you describe the feeling of like a little bit of emptiness, or realizing that what you're doing right now, although to the
Does it really
outside world,
matter? Yeah, like the feeling is, does it really matter? You know, like at the end of the day, like I really, the questions that I was asking myself that I maybe the I want the listeners to hear is, I started to ask myself, what are the other things that I'm supposed to do that are supposed to shift something in me? Because obviously there's something in me that's incomplete, because as I achieve these things, they require more and more of a sacrifice and a discipline, and they're bringing me back less and less fulfillment, because as people are giving me my love language, quality time and words of affirmation, because of the trauma that I experienced as a kid, and really kind of like the agreement that I decided of myself, I decided that I was worthless unless I was winning, unless I was producing, unless I was giving. So, like me, I'm worthless, but what I can do with my skills and my time and my energy and my gifts, if I can produce things, then I can become valuable. And it was like in that moment that I realized that there was nothing that I could achieve extrinsically, or nothing that I could shift in my ecosystem or in my life or in my marriage or in my business, that was going to change the opinion that I had of myself. And so that really sent me on like a spiritual vision quest for, okay, if I think something's broken in me, how do I fix it and who do I talk to? So does that kind of set the context for it a little bit?
100%. And I just want to thank you for really getting deep, because I'm a fan, brother, and I've heard your other work, and you're getting as deep as I've ever heard you right now, pulling back the curtain and really providing a visual for the audience. So thank you for that.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess the next question, if I could, that I would be wondering if I was listening to me right now, is like, okay, well, where did you go and who did you talk to? Or are you still kind of searching, Steve? I'm not searching anymore. What I ended up doing was really kind of what I was talking to you about, is like, I started to seek out men who walked in a level of freedom and confidence that I wanted, you know? Like I was very disciplined. I actually didn't know anybody that was more disciplined or more focused or more willing to sacrifice than I was. But how come I didn't have the freedom of some of these men that I see operate in business and operate in their marriage and operate in life? And so I began to pursue relationship like that. And I ended up going to a church, and this church hosted this really big men's event. The church is called Awaken in San Diego, and their pastor is Pastor Jurgen Matthesius. So I wanted to honor him because his church is amazing. And this experience really did change my life. But they had this huge men's conference in the middle of the desert called Emerge. And this past year, I wasn't able to go because I was speaking at a different event, but I'll be there next year. There were 2,800 men. It's the biggest men's leadership event, I believe, in the country now. 2,800 men under the tent. But the first time that I went was 4 years ago. It was the first leadership event that I've ever been to, or like churchy type event that I've been to. Cause I've been on Sundays, homeboy, I'm the one providing the entertainment. I'm not going to church. I did my little chaplain thing with our teammates on Saturday night, for 20 minutes. Dear God, bless us, give us strength, protect us from our enemies, give us victory, all that stuff. But it was more like, hey man, I'm checking the box here so God can let me play good tomorrow and protect my family while I'm gone. But this event, I got invited to it, and I actually got special permission for my 11-year-old son, my oldest, to come with me. And so we're at this event, and I got invited by a friend, and the first speaker walks up, and they announce his name, and he walks up and he grabs the microphone. I didn't recognize his name, but he speaks into the microphone, Craig. And I've done drugs. I've won Super Bowls. I've done some of the most radical things ever. I've experienced a lot of things. And the feeling that came over my body when I heard his voice was like, it was like a heat wave come over me, and like my skin started to vibrate, but not in like an alarming, painful way, but in like a type of way. Like if I could describe the feeling on my skin, it was like, and I looked at my buddy that invited me. I said, "What's this guy's name?" And he said, he looked at the program and he's like, his name's Keith Craft. So I Google his name, and the first picture that pops up is this dude that's in like a cutoff like I have on right now, and he's breaking bricks. And as soon as I saw that picture, I was taken back to about 3 months before I was sexually abused. And I was invited to a power team concert where guys were like breaking bricks and handcuffs and bending bars over their head. And then at the end of the event, they would say, you know, if you want this type of power and freedom, I want you to raise your hand right now. And I'm going to talk to you about entering into a relationship with Jesus Christ. Well, I made that decision when I was 11. And that was actually the reason that I really went all in on like developing my body, and then trauma happened. And so those two things happening and kind of like the divine convergence of the same timetable.
Love that word, divine. Yep.
Yeah, it really defined the trajectory of my life. And I realized in the moment, that was the flipping guy when I was 11 years old. And so I'm trying to pay attention to the words that he's saying, but all these things are swirling in my mind of how that moment impacted all of the decisions that I made after that. Because in that moment, I was like, oh man, that's a picture of possibility. So you're telling me like, you can be a man of faith like my dad, but you don't have to tuck your shirt in and drive a station wagon and be like the rest of the friends at church. Like you can be bold and strong and be like a pro wrestler. Cause it was during the 80s, man. I love that stuff.
Same.
And yeah, right. That's us, dude. And he got done speaking and I ran up to him. There's 2,000 men and everybody went up to him to tell him how amazing he was. And I said, Pastor Keith, you're never going to believe this. I got saved when I was 11 years old. And because of you, I started lifting weights. And because of you, I had permission, like, hey, I can be Christian. And I can go out and be successful and a world champion, a professional athlete. So I just wanted to let you know, man, you changed my life. And I think it's so crazy that you're here. He's like, oh man, that's awesome. Like, DM me on Instagram. And so as I'm walking back to my chair, Craig, I'm realizing like, man, God is real. And like, not only is he real, I believe he put this person back in my life, just like I was talking to you about, like, I knew something was missing in me, but I didn't know how to fix it. And I didn't know who to talk to. I realized in that moment, when the teacher is ready, or when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And so I'm like, this is like happening. And I'm realizing that as I'm walking back to my chair, and I'm like, Nick, my buddy that invited me, I'm like, you're never going to believe this, dude. This is the guy that did it. And I was starting to download him on this. And then I realized, I'm like, oh, shoot, where's my son? He's like, oh, dude, you're never going to believe it. When they did an altar call and an invitation to Jesus, your son went up there and you didn't even realize it. And I just realized in that moment, my son was also 11 years old. So when I was 11, this guy came to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and did pretty much the same thing that he did up on the stage, minus breaking bricks, but he was still speaking the same message.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but it was 25 years to the day.
It was, and then I realized a few days later when I was kind of sharing the news with my mom, I'm like, Mom, you're never going to believe this. This guy, when I was 11, that was in Baton Rouge, he was also here. And Ace ended up going up there and making the same decision that I did. My mom's been on her knees praying for years. And
Divine
she's like, oh my gosh,
intervention.
that's amazing. And so when she realized that, she went and like dug up my old Bible that had the day that I received Jesus. And she called me back. She's like, you're never going to believe this. It's 25 years to the day, the same guy. And it was just like, that to me was just not only confirmation that God is real, that God is good, but also that, like, when they say he operates outside of time, that's it, you know. And I just knew that he was just waiting for me to be ready, like, to stop trying to achieve myself to being worth something, and to realize that God chose me. You know, the crazy thing that people don't realize is like, oh, like, I don't know if I have a destiny or a purpose. I want every single person right now to hear me when I say this. You're a winner. When your dad and your mom got together and your dad said, tonight's the night I'm going to release some seed into this lady, guess what? There were 600,000 participants and there were 599,999 losers. You won the first race that you ever freaking ran. You're a champion. So, like, the first race you ever ran, you're a champion. So you're undefeated coming into this world. There's a purpose for you. Like, you're here for a reason. And I believe that every single person that God brought into this world has special gifts that's inside of them. Same. And I believe that podcasts like this and conversations like this are the ones that allow people to realize, man, I've been living my life based upon a whole bunch of missions, and I don't even really realize what the purpose is. So
Yeah.
if you're sitting here like wondering, like, well, what is that purpose? And this is not my opinion. This is according to God. Once you receive Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, meaning like you realize, man, I am a sinner, I'm incomplete. There's some stuff that I just can't get right in me. And you're ready to like repent of that and receive Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. Like, let's say that happens, then like, what's my purpose? Okay. And let's just assume that that box is checked. We can deal with that in a minute. But what's my purpose? Well, there's an assignment and there's a commission to be fruitful, to multiply, to fill the earth, to subdue it, and to take dominion. That's one of them. There's a quote that I have, a poem that my mentor, Keith Craft, the guy that I talked to you guys about, that came back into my life as a mentor for me.
I hope
And
I hope
really,
it's the poem I'm thinking of.
yeah, it's called Choose Your Heart. I think it is.
Right. I hope
Yeah.
I hope you were going there. This is so
Yeah,
powerful.
because I'm glad that this is the one that you want. Yeah, there you go. And it's this poem, I feel like will resonate with everybody because every single person that's hearing my voice has gone through something hard, you know?
Nobody's exempt from that. And this is really deep stuff. And I'm so glad that you're bringing this to the light, Steve.
Yeah. And thanks, Craig. And some of the stuff that's happened that's hard in our life, we haven't been able to make the decision. Like when my teacher took advantage and like did the things that he did to me, like more than once, because I didn't say something the first time, like I thought I chose my hard and I thought I was just going to have to deal with it. Right. And so I don't know what mistakes people have made that maybe you might just be like carrying that around. I feel like there's so many gifts that God has for us, but a lot of us are like reaching to like get it. But we're still holding on to like that suitcase of shame and guilt. I'm like, man, I can't show this to God because he's definitely wouldn't bless me. But what we don't realize is we can't fully receive what God has for us if we're holding on to something else, because what he has for us is so big that we need two hands. So I want everybody right now to just say like, all right, in my mind, in my life, I'm going to embrace the hard because it's coming whether you want it or not, guys. So just decide I'm going to embrace the hard. But I do have a decision for you to make. It's like, what hard do you want? I'll read you this poem, then I'll let you make a decision.
Please, brother.
Choose your hard. Being your best is hard. Being normal is hard. Making wise decisions is hard. Making bad decisions is hard. Being in shape is hard. Being out of shape is hard. Losing weight is hard. Being fat is hard. Being disciplined is hard. Being lazy is hard. Getting outside of your comfort zone is hard. Staying inside your comfort zone where everything stays the same is hard. Starting a business, being an entrepreneur is hard. Man, I tell you what, building somebody else's dream is hard. Making a lot of money is hard. Making a little bit of money is hard. Being rich is hard. Being poor is hard. Having great relationships takes investments, guys. It's hard. Having bad relationships is hard. Having friends is hard. Having no friends is hard. Fighting for your marriage, homies. Been married for 15 years. Let me tell you right now, it's hard. Divorce is not something I ever want to experience. And I know some of my brothers and sisters are listening to this right now. It's hard. Having a lot of things is hard. Having nothing is hard. Living on purpose, hear me when I say this right now, it's hard and it's unrelenting. But living off of purpose is hard. Doing life God's way, I'm going to tell you right now, guys, it's an assignment. It's a commission. It's hard. But doing life your own way, I did it for 36 years. I'm 39 now. I will never go back. I've had the pill. Everything is hard. At the end of the day, I want everybody on the CLS experience to hear me. You got to choose your heart.
Well, some of the things that you say that are really cool, for example, like not being conformed by the patterns of this world, only the limitations are self-imposed. I think that's something that everybody needs to hear right now.
Yeah, why? I mean, it's kind of like why I want it to be an interruption in people's lives and in their eternity by allowing them to kind of pray that prayer, because the world is so good at, like, there's a verse, you said it's Hebrews 12:2, do not be conformed to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And I asked myself during my life journey, I'm like, man, dude, I'm so broken and busted and empty inside. Like, I need a renewing in my life. But until I had renewing in my mind, because I thought I was what happened to me. And I thought I was like my addictions, and I thought I was like my pornography addiction and these different things. And so I needed a renewing in my mind so I could start to see what God really had for me. because the world is really good, Craig, at putting names on us. Oh, he's got ADHD. Oh, he's hyperactive. Oh, he's a sexual abuse survivor. Oh, he's only a high school graduate. You're right. Those things are on my resume, but those are things I did or things that were done to me. That's not who I am.
Playing for the audience of one.
That's it, man. You got it.
And I love it when people think of Steve Weatherford, a lot of people think of physical fitness, but what I'm so moved by, straight up, brother, is the spiritual fitness.
Yeah. Well, God has worked on me, man. And I feel like I heard a story about a week ago. I was on a coaching call with my mentor, and we were talking about how much I feel like God has grown me as a leader spiritually in my own home to my family, but as a leader to myself and a leader to my brothers that I'm discipling. And it's a lot fast. And I was asking Pastor Keith, I'm like, man, like I want my other friends to grow spiritually. Like I've grown spiritually. Like, why have I grown like this? Because I don't want it to just be for me. I want this to be followable excellence. That's why when people text message me, like, I'm not going to leave you hanging. Like I'm in the game, bro. I am working on myself. And so I asked Pastor Keith, I was like, what did I do that we can replicate on my brothers so they can really grow really quickly, but that maybe they could even do it quicker than me? Like, what's my X factor? And he said, there was a pastor that was in Korea. I'm not even going to try his name, but there's probably not that many that have a congregation of 1 million. So whoever that guy is. But prior to him having this massive congregation, he was a monk and he would, meditate for hours and hours. And when he saw the light and really came to Jesus and then got into pastoring, they were so impressed. They're like, my God, like, no wonder you have such a massive audience, like you can pray for hours and hours, God can do anything through you. He was like, dude, I can't pray for hours and hours because of God. I can pray for hours and hours because I disciplined myself to be quiet and to focus and to meditate on Buddha. And all I did was take that discipline that I had with Buddha, take him out and put God in. And I had supernatural acceleration. So I'll circle this back to why Pastor Keith believes that I got really supernatural growth in a short amount of time is because I spent so much of my life on my natural disciplines of focus, my natural disciplines of accountability, my natural disciplines of creating a plan for myself, of training a muscle or the nutrition or the sleep. And all I did was I took that and I said, I'm going to read the Bible, kind of like what I just shared with everybody. I said, I created disciplines for myself. And the first half hour of every day, it's not going to be geared towards fitness or, mind, body. No, I'm going to spend the first 30 minutes of my day every single day. They say first fruit God. They're not just talking about your money, homies. They're talking about give him the best of what you have, and the best energy and focus that I have is the first 30 minutes of every day. And so that's the biggest shift that I made once I decided to I'm not going to live that way anymore, man. I'm going to do it God's way. Well, what does God say? He says, give me your first fruits. So I give him the first energy, the first anxiety that I have of the day. I give that to God because I wake up with anxiety just like everybody else does. I still have goals and things, but I quickly get rid of them. And that's the difference between an amateur and a pro in anything. Amateurs spend about this much time in breakdown, and pros spend that much time. Everybody breaks down, but you don't see pros stay stuck in it. And here's something I want everybody to if you don't remember any quotes from this one, pros, the difference between amateurs and pros, amateurs, they make decisions based upon their feelings, and pros make decisions based upon their commitments. When the alarm clock goes off, a pro doesn't say, let me do a body scan and see how I feel and then make a decision. No, they made their decision when they set their alarm clock. So when the alarm clock goes off, there's no body scan because they don't care about what their feelings say. They have a commitment to fulfill. And I believe that life has become very clear to me because I'm only committed to one person now, but through my commitment and submission to that one person, that creator, everybody else gets to be the beneficiary of that versus trying to be committed to everybody because I feel terrible about me. So let me try to make myself valuable to them. And all of a sudden I shifted from trying to play for an audience of 100,000 in the stands or 1 million on Instagram. And I said, you know what? I know what my purpose is. It says Matthew 6:33, seek first the kingdom and all this will be added unto you. Well, you know what? All I need to worry about is seek first the kingdom. He'll worry about the rest of that stuff. And that's kind of like my North Star, man.
I love this stuff, buddy. And like I said earlier in the conversation, the only negative I got going on is we don't have 10 hours to chat, but we're definitely going to bring you back for a sequel. And I know the audience is going to get so much out of this, and you're helping people see the light. We'll land the plane with this. I was doing some homework because I'm a fan and because I wanted to respect this conversation and build the rapport. And I saw you say something along the lines of this: every night before bed, what you say to your kids is, you can achieve anything in life as long as you're willing to pay the price. That really struck a chord with me.
Yeah. And actually, the people listening to this won't see it on Instagram story, but I literally just made a whole Instagram story about paying the price. Everything in life.
Talk about alignment.
Yeah. Everything in life has a price.
Everything. Choose your heart.
Your marriage of your dreams has a price. And it's not just the dollar amount, and it's not just the time amount. Sometimes it's an intention amount, like, are you living life in order? God is a God of order. So if you want him to bless your marriage or bless your finances, make sure that they're in order, and then, like, the enemy loves confusion, loves chaos, because that creates overwhelm. And when there's overwhelm, there's indecision. And when there's indecision, there's like passivity. And when there's passivity, then comes depression.
I was just reading
I
about
just don't ever want to be a man that gets stuck in any of those. And I believe if my commitments are clear, my feelings can be what they are, but I make decisions based upon my commitments, and my commitments are very clear. My identity is concise, and I know who I'm rolling with. I don't need 300. I might just need 3, So, does that answer your question?
Buddy, you're on fire and you can't be stopped. This is straight up gold. And I know the audience is going to get so much out of it. And just one last one, because I selfishly wanted to ask you this. And I saw you talking about this also. So simple, yet so effective. Don't allow good to be the robbery of best.
Yeah. Don't allow, small adjustment. Don't allow good to be the robber of best, because that's what it is. It's not a robbery, because it doesn't just happen once. That sucker knows where you live, and if you let good come in the door and be like, oh yeah, you know what, one of the things that for me, I lay my clothes out. I've done it since I was 10 years old. And one of the reasons that I do that is a visualization thing for me. I would lay my uniform out, my shin guards, my socks, my cleats, and I'd sit on a chair next to it, and I would visualize myself scoring goals. I'd visualize myself shooting the game-winning shot. And it was a visualization thing for me. And it's something that continued on into the pros. And then after I retired, I decided to just do it every night. And I would lay my clothes out, and I don't dress good. And it's not about what I'm wearing. It's more about picturing myself wearing those shoes, wearing those socks, wearing that shirt, and executing at the highest level the next day, being really clear, being really concise, being really committed and really disciplined to who I am, what I'm about, and why I'm showing up. And that is one of the ways that you hear kind of like that life philosophy of don't let good be the robber of best. That's just one of the ways that philosophy influences how I go to bed and how I wake up. Because when I wake up, I don't have to think about what I'm going to put on. And I definitely don't have to think about what I'm going to look like when I put them on, because I've already seen it, in a 90-second reel, when I just sat down and kind of said my prayers before bed, when I had my quiet moment before I pray over my wife, visualize myself being the best I can be the next day. And before I do that, sit down on those clothes and look at my schedule. I know what I'm going to be wearing, but what's my schedule for the next day? Literally 30 seconds just to look at your appointments, or like, I visualized what's happening right now last night while I was sitting on these clothes. Sorry, I didn't dress up for you. It was the plan.
You look great
for
brother.
me to go from working out to sitting right here to having the exact conversation I was absolutely planning. And thank you for giving me space to give people an opportunity to receive Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior, because all of their tomorrows will change. I visualized it. I might have been cleaner with my words, but at the end of the day, my intention was clear and I executed it. So thank you for giving me space for that. But it wasn't like an idea I came up with 10 minutes before coming on here.
Yeah.
And I believe if more men and more women and more entrepreneurs and more teachers and more leaders can just say, you know what? I'm just going to be more intentional and I'm going to be more strategic with my life. And one of the ways that you can do it is by discontinuing average in your life. Don't allow good to be the robber of best, because if you accept good, you'll never see what your best is.
All right. Unbelievable nuggets today, brother. So much love and respect for you. What's the best way for the million downloads to support you? The best way for the community to support you?
Man, dude, share this podcast right here with somebody. Like, sure, you go listen to my podcast. I haven't recorded anything in 3 months. Like, I've been in a stillness period where I just, like, God is speaking to me and I'm just not creating any content. And I'm kind of like, this is my release. And so I'm
I'd
fully
love to be
loaded.
on
So
your
there's a
show
lot
with
of
me,
things
Fred.
that I shared, and kind of a lot of ways that my brain is kind of working right now that it wasn't working that way 3 or 4 months ago because I was in content creation mode. But I think it's really good every once in a while. And this is an encouragement to you also, Craig, just in your life, because I know that you're new to this and you're creating as much content as you can, and relationships and networks are important. But your greatest stuff is going to come when you're working from victory and from rest, not working like, hey, I got to get 60 podcasts done so I can rest. I've found that, like, my flow and when I work my best and when I'm my most creative is when I honor the Sabbath. I take one day completely off. Every 90 days, I take a full week off. And I think kind of creating those different standards and boundaries for you is going to allow you to do what you're doing right now, which is amazing, for a really long time. Because that's the point of this, is for you to do what you're doing at your best, but for you to do it for as long as you can, for as well as you can. And I think living by margin and just having conversations like this that just kind of adjust us as iron sharpens iron. And so I hope today served you too, man. It definitely served me, because
Absolutely.
I wanted people to be able to hear God's power.
And thank you so much for that feedback, brother. And if you're up for it, I'd love to be a guest on your show. The best part
Man,
about
you
this
need to
for
come
me,
on down here to Texas, come through a workout. People don't come on my podcast unless they pay their price. You know what I mean?
I have a speaking engagement there in the fall. I'd love to come see you.
Come pay your price, bro. We'll record a podcast afterwards.
Sold. Say no more. Best part about
Amen.
this for me is it's just the beginning of the friendship. How can I personally support you, Steve?
Bro, you're doing it right now, man. I would just encourage people to come listen to my podcast, because I'm re-recording right now. So by the time this comes out, I'll have some fresh stuff up, and I've got 157 episodes that are very, very high frequency, just like the one that we had here. I'm not here to fluff you guys. I'm not here for you to like me more. I'm here for you to live your best life according to God, for you to be your greatest expression of how he created you. And if that helps you adapting my mindset and my thought process, and you get a little bit more urgent in your life and a little bit more clear about this thing is about, mission accomplished, man. Thank you.
Bang. So much love and respect for you, Steve. If the audience, guys, if you love the episode, all we ask is that you take a screenshot, share it, tag it. And all I want to say is this, brother Steve, I want you to know you're the definition of grit, abundance, and resilience, from taking your life experience and showcasing faith and transformations to millions, stepping out of the darkness and into the light. You're a true gladiator, visionary, role model, and beacon of hope for anybody coming up to their big goals and aspirations. I could personally guarantee that your best is yet to come. Keep on spreading your wings and leaving your mark on this world. So much love to you, brother. Thank you so much for stopping by and dropping these priceless, authentic nuggets today.
Hey, Craig Siegel is like Flavor Flav, bro. I'm gonna take you with me to the top, man. Bless you, dude. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, buddy. That was awesome, Steve. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, man, for sure. Thanks for giving me space, bro. And dude, God's hands on this one, man. Release it into the wild. Watch what happens. And I'll say that because of me, man. For real.
Yeah. Let's build a friendship.
No doubt, man. Come on down here to Texas, man. You're invited. You got a place at the table. I'm serious. Come down here and come through some hard stuff with me. We'll get you on the podcast.
I believe you, and I appreciate it.